According to an article I read the other day, something called social media is a pretty popular thing lately. I don't know exactly what the phrase social media means, since all media is inherently social and about distributing knowledge. So instead of that ridiculous concept, I'm going to talk to you about the previous knowledge revolution, the 5.5 centuries between it and our most recent one, and what that tells us about the future. Do you remember that scene from Talladega Nights where Ricky Bobby says, with all due respect, right before he tells his team owner he must have had his balls removed? Yeah, well, this is kind of like that. Just keep in mind I'm making no moral judgments. Well, except for Hitler, he was a dick. At the beginning of the 14th century, the church was the dominant social institution in Western Europe. Then, about mid-century, the Black Plague moved in from Asia, killing about a third of the population. For a variety of reasons, like seeing your entire town die, or watching your willy turn black, people became a bit disillusioned. With Europe recovering from a severe case of the dead, the previous knowledge revolution started when book technology was mass-produced by the invention of the movable type printing press. Previously, a book had about the same value as a small farm. Not a farm bill farm. God, no, those things have more inherent value than the Vatican if it were haunted by the full-body apparition of Michael Jackson. Speaking of the Vatican, the Catholic Church wasn't at all pleased with this fancy mass media business, as it held a monopoly on the knowledge of most of Europe. It was especially displeased with the resulting Protestant Reformation, which mass-produced the Bible in local languages, putting personal interpretation in the hands of the common man. Of course, sometimes an individual's interpretation is complete crap, and the Catholic Church had at least some valid reason to think all Protestants needed to be pressed to death. Inevitably, despite how good or crap your interpretation happens to be, someone will come along with another one and steal a portion of your followers, which is exactly what happened to the Protestant Christianity over the next, what's today's date? Let's stop for a few seconds to talk about how power works in human society, which is a lot like caramelized bread pudding. Basically, people are like a bunch of soggy, ordinary breadcrumbs until they're lumped together for some purpose, like a single delicious pan of warm, puddingy goodness. A person only has power if a group of people give him that power by allowing him to influence and direct them. With the centralized power of the church waning, those soggy little breadcrumbs started to coalesce into smaller groups based around language, ideas, and geographical boundaries. These new forms of identity created the modern concept of nationalism. Nationalism resulted in a lot of war, but also sparked the Industrial Revolution, which caused production to increase dramatically. Ideas and ingenuity became valued over manual labor as machines became more efficient than humans at certain tasks. And the middle class became the backbone of society. Child labor was rampant as they were cheap to employ and easy to control. There's nothing a good Irish kiss can't cure. When those black-eyed kids grew up, they were understandably motivated to create systems that were a bit more empowering, and the labor-based political parties were born, including fascism, which was a mental fountain of youth for the ragged psyches of the Germans, who had spent the last 30 years under the heel of an overly oppressive treaty and economic devastation. Spurred by charismatic leaders like Hitler, they quickly built an army and started the most horrifying war in history. While Hitler was a psychotic fuckhead who probably masturbated with gloves made of racism, he had a nation of people with 500 years of practice being innovative, literate, free-thinking, which he then unchained from all sense of morals, creating terrifying weapons of war and mass murder. The resulting vacuum of crushed empires was filled by Russia and the US, sparking the Cold War, which was very much like an abstinent young Protestant couple very awkwardly avoiding sex while dry humping on their parents' couch, as both the US and Russia desperately wanted to get into each other's pants, while at the same time definitely avoiding sticking nuclear missiles up each other's asses. In the event of an unfortunate nuclear slip, the US started building contingencies to make sure military and government computer networks were hardened and didn't rely on a single point of failure, which was the foundation of the internet and the beginning of the fourth great knowledge revolution. See, knowledge revolutions change scope. They change access to both consume and produce information, democratizing the realm of ideas by freeing up the existing filters. They shrink both time and space and make it easier for people to have diversified identities not bound by their immediate generation, social structure, or geography. So that's where we are today. Let's spend a minute talking about what we can expect for the future. 1. Content is king. Content will be the currency of our age. As infrastructural elements of society become more commoditized, the ability to generate creative ideas and content out of those ideas will continue to increase in value. 2. Augmented reality. The digital world will continue to merge with the physical, augmenting all forms of our senses, creating a hybrid reality. This will, of course, immediately be filled with tits and giant robot spiders as early adopters are freed from real-world morality and physics. 3. Non-geographic nationalism. As a result of the change in communication scope, a person's identity and relationships will continue to be formed in non-geographic ways. This will increasingly and significantly affect politics and will exponentially accelerate after the language barrier is solved. To sum up my predictions for the future, it will be filled with Nazi robot spiders and bread pudding. We live in interesting times, which can be a blessing or a curse depending on how willing you are to adapt and how dead you get as a result of the coming political turmoil. So when the CEO of Zynga is arrested for violating child labor laws, your mayor gives a State of the City address while wearing a Winnie the Pooh costume, and someone is burning your tweets, I just want you to remember that I fucking called it.